Thank you. What we're going to be doing today is it's going to be in three sections. So you know what we're doing. We're going to talk about the pre-auditions before you go to auditions. Then we're going to talk about what you do or don't do during the auditions. And then after the auditions, that panic time or that bar time for some of us. So we're going to be addressing those three issues at the beginning of this presentation. So let's start. Who would like to begin the conversation on what you should be doing before you even go to an audition?
I'll start. I think before you go to an audition, you should read the play if possible. If you can get a copy of the script, I would not ask the director because the director has enough other things to worry about without finding extra scripts for people that don't have parts yet. But I would try, I know a man I used to act with quite often who always went to the publishing company and ordered his own. I don't think you should be memorizing things in the script, but I think you should be familiar about what characters are in the play and how they present themselves so that you have an idea when you're up there. If you're playing some old dowager versus a silly young maid, you'll have an idea of what the character is before you step on stage for that first audition.
And I think just to piggyback on that, I think it's a good idea to read the script, but it's also a good idea to be flexible and not get yourself stuck into a character because you don't know what the director wants. So yes, you'll have some ideas about motivation and maybe some background and what's happening in the story, but don't get stuck in making up a character that maybe the director wants something different. So you still have to be flexible.
Right. And I didn't mean when I said to be familiar with the character. You're exactly right. But you do need to know whether you're playing a young maid or versus the old dowager, like I said. So the character itself may change many times, but you need to know what different people are in that script.
One thing we forgot, though, that makes a lot of sense, but again, this is 101, auditioning 101. Double and triple check the dates and times, A, and B, make sure you're there earlier than the time. Directors have a fit every single time when the clock gets closer to the time of auditions and they're hoping more people come. And it's a kind of distracting to me, I think, when you're in the beginning of an audition and then all of a sudden you have people coming in the first 5 minutes when the people are already on stage. So try not to do that. Again, it's a courtesy thing to everybody else if you get there earlier. Another thing about getting there earlier is socializing. A lot of times, a lot of the actors go in just panic stricken. The way to get rid of that fear is to socialize. So come in, and if you know people there, just socialize for 5-10 minutes before auditions, and it will relax you. More importantly, if you're new to the system and you never auditioned in your entire life, the theater is new also. It's a good time to get to know people. And hopefully they're going to be friendly enough to ask you who you are and what you're doing and things like that. These are all important things that you may not think have anything to do with audition, but they definitely have to do with your frame of mind. So again, get there early, relax, and have fun. Art, did you want to add anything about before auditions?
A couple of points that you were talking about. There we go. As far as being on time, as a director, I have changed my way of putting out audition notices. I used to put out auditions on such and such a day, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Well, I found that a lot of people don't want to come until it gets closer to 8 p.m. and that's a bad thing. Now I put out auditions and I say 6 p.m. So if the audition says 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., be there by 7 p.m. or 5 minutes before, because you usually have to fill out a form. The other point is, is not to be stressed out, like Arnie was saying. Don't be stressed out. I'm telling you right now, that director is just as stressed out as you are. I hate auditions as a director. They're stressful. We're going through the same amount of stress as someone auditioning is. So just let yourself relax and let yourself know that director is also going through some stress.
Anybody else want to add anything to that?
When you say get there early, go ahead, Suzanne.
I was just going to say dress comfortably. Dress
Mhm.
something you're comfortable in, comfortable to move. You know, it's not the time to, wear your high heels and don't go in costume, if you've done the show before, don't come as that character. That's not a good thing. So just be comfortable, be yourself, be willing to open up your mind and do, go out of your comfort zone.
And I was going to say, as Arnie has said, that you probably will have a form to fill out, name, address, experience, that kind of thing. So don't go at 1 minute of 7 if that's when the audition is. Give yourself time. You may have to figure out, it may say on the audition form, do you have any conflicts? Well, you may have to pull out your calendar and look and see, okay, what do I have to list those? So I would say go 20 minutes early if you can. Bring a pencil or a pen. I know most directors have them available, but what if they're all used up? What if be prepared. Just bring a pencil and a pen and come early. And after you've filled out the form, you'll have time to relax.
I want to say something also about what you're going to put on, because sometimes people who come in for the first time say, oh my God, I have these conflicts. I'm going to be away for this vacation. That means they're not going to cast me. That is furthest from the truth most of the time, okay? Some directors, I'm not going to speak for every director, but some directors are flexible enough to work around your schedule if they really want you in the part. To not put down a conflict is the worst mistake you could make.
Right.
Don't think that you're not going to get the part because you do that. The same thing I'm talking about newbies, and I did this the very beginning when I used to audition, when they ask you about whether you want to work backstage or not. And if you think to yourself, oh my God, they're going to put me backstage, I'm not going to get a part. You know as well as everybody else that actors are the most insecure people in the world. So they come up with all these great excuses of why they don't get the part. Well, if you do your best, and if you have fun doing it, that shouldn't even enter in your mind. All reason that I'm mentioning it is because that sheet that you fill out is one of the most important things that the director has in casting and scheduling. And that is the most important thing that you fill out. Please be honest. If you do have problems that are unique, I guarantee you most of the time, the director will see you after auditions and you could work that out before they make any decisions. The easier you make for the director, the better the chance you have of getting the part, because they know immediately that you could be working with them. And that's the whole idea. The collaboration of the actor and the director, and you're showing them that you're sincere and honest and you could actually talk to the director. How's that for an idea? I don't know. I've had a lot of times where I finally scheduled it and then all of a sudden the person comes up and says, no, I can't do it because, rehearsals on blah, blah, and I worked during these hours, but you didn't put it down on your card. So again, it's very, very important to fill out that sheet the way and honestly as you can.
That's true. Yep, and we all know that as directors. There's nothing worse than sitting down with a bunch of papers for all of your auditioners and look at them and pick somebody out, only to find out that, well, they can't do this week, or they can't do 2 weeks before the show, or they're not available 4 days before the show. Nothing worse than finding that out for everybody. So you're absolutely right, Arnie. Be honest with your audition sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to move on because there's so much more to cover. I had a lot of interesting questions like, where do I sit? I have these little mundane questions, but I think it's important to think about that yourself. We won't get into too much detail there. Or before I move on, do you ever have actors, any of you directors ever have actors that come up while they're auditioning or before they audition? They're given the script, they're told what scene to write, and they stop immediately and say, can you tell me a little bit about your about the character that I'm reading for?
I've had people ask me that, and it's a good question, and it's and I think it's an actual valid question. If it helps somebody to get an idea of what that character is, why they're saying what they're saying, because usually what happens with directors is that we take what's called a side, and we'll print 3 or 4 pages of a script, and pages 1 through 10, and then pages 12 through 14, and just have them read, and they don't really know where that character fits in, no matter what. So definitely, if they ask you, and I actually even offer it sometimes, who this character is, yeah, it's a good thing to do.
And I know I like to, when I start an audition, to actually go through the characters and maybe a little bit of background, just to have everybody kind of on the same page, not in depth, nothing in depth, but just a little bit, just to give them a little bit of something to hold on to, something to bounce off.
And I like that too. I'll give an overview of the play and what the idea and the plot and everything is. And if someone asks me specifics, I might say she is angry at the character you're reading across from because he killed her dog. But I don't go into more specifics than that because I want to see what they're going to do with that piece of it. So yes, I think it's a good question in that they want an idea. Am I angry? Am I happy? Am I sad? And maybe why, but not to nitpick.
Right.
When we start auditionings, the saying always comes, be prepared. That's a Boy Scout motto, but it's also a motto for auditions. Anybody can elaborate on what we mean by be prepared for the audition? We mentioned a couple of things here and there, but there are other factors involved, I think.
I think it's being prepared for anything, whatever's thrown at you. Every audition is different. Even when I hold auditions, they're different. They kind of have the same theme, but it depends on what the characters are, what the show is, how many people are at the audition. I pick and choose what kind of tools I'm going to use based on that. And I think it's being prepared for anything. And it's being prepared to go out of your comfort zone. And I can't stress that enough, because a lot of times people are in their head, and a lot of the things that I like to do are to get people out of their head and just to be, just to show me what you can do. It may not have anything to do with that script. It may not have to do anything with that character, but what can you do? So
and I also that it means to be flexible, which kind of piggybacks on yours. I work with someone quite often who doesn't always have people read from the script, but has people do really silly improvisation type activities. And some of them are quite silly, jumping around like a monkey and doing things. And it's not so much to see if you can be a monkey as it is to see how well you take direction. Are you easy to work with? Because I've found sometimes that some people may do better acting with the script than another person, but the other person is much easier to work with and will take direction and do what the director wants. And in that case, I'm going to choose that second person over someone who is not willing to be flexible, to change what they think that character should be.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. As I say, I've been directing for 40 years. My approach to directing and to auditioning, actually the audition process, has changed in that time as well. I do something very similar to the person that Denise is talking about. And I do a combination of cold readings, pantomime, improv, and there are times, believe me, when I start that process, there are people in the audition room that just freak right out. They do. But that's okay, because it also helps tell you things about the person. So, yep, be prepared for anything, I think, is a good way to put
it. And more importantly, be prepared for the unknown, because you don't know what's going to happen on stage at any time. You're opposite somebody who might go crazy, and they might have rehearsed the lines as compared to you doing the cold reading, and the pacing and the timing is all off, and all that good stuff that every actor worries about. Don't let that stop you. You do the best you can, communicate, communicate, communicate. And for those new actors out there, don't upstage yourself. God, that is the worst thing to do during an audition. What do I mean? I don't really want to see your derriere during the audition period, okay? If you're facing upstage for any reason, make sure that you're not doing that, okay? Communicate with the person that's obviously next to you or talking to you. You don't even know who they are sometimes, so be aware that's going to happen. You don't know whether the other people are going to move around. And that's something else, I think. And for me, my own personal opinion is that use the space. Sometimes directors put up chairs. There's a reason for that, okay? Some people even put in and roll in doorways. There's a reason for that, okay? Make yourself aware of the space that you're in and use it. In other words, don't think that you're in a chorus line all the time. If you're looking ahead of the script, or if you have a couple of seconds to look at the script and you know that you're a husband and wife, make sure that you're standing pretty close to husband and wife. But what happens if the neighbor comes in after a couple of lines? Well, you could either cross over to them or they could cross over to you. It's okay to walk away from your spot while you're auditioning. I know this is like acting 101, but I know a couple of people out there have never auditioned before. And it's worth just saying that and also repeating it. Use the space around you.
I'd like to add to that. I'd rather see somebody auditioning put out too much emotion or character than someone who just stands there and doesn't want to give of themselves. Because then the director can't really tell if that person is capable of putting out more. It's much easier to pull somebody back than it would be to have someone just stand there and read the lines and not move at all, because now you don't know if they're capable of doing anymore.
Yep, I like show-offs. That's
And
somebody told me that a teacher
along those lines, you love show-offs not only in comedies but also drama. There's you get to know an actor in auditions about the range, and that's what we keep talking about. The range of their ability, the range of their experiences by just one audition. You're not aware of that as an actor, but that's what Art's saying. I think that's what we're all saying, is that there are a lot of things that they're judging you other than the lines. Because some people, like Denise just said, a lot of people, including myself, are really bad at cold reading. Sometimes I even have a problem because my glasses don't seem to work right. Or the lighting on stage doesn't look right, and I just can't see the script, so I'm stumbling through the whole thing. And the director is very understanding about that. Again, you move on, do the best you can. Anybody else?
Just, I think physicality, I think you've all touched on that, but sometimes it's not even the words. Art said, improvs without words, pantomiming things, just to see what you're going to do, because a lot of times people rely just on the text. And when you're on stage, you cannot rely on merely the text. You have to be able to communicate using physicality. So a lot of the things that I will do also have to do with improv or pantomiming type stuff, depending on the show. Also using the text, but another trap that people fall into sometimes is using the same cadence in their voice, regardless. They read a monologue and they'll go into another scenario. They'll read the monologue exactly the same way, but maybe they're a little louder because they're angry. So what I also like to do is to throw out different motivations, different situations, and have them use the same monologue. Or in the middle of the monologue, change it to see how they can, pick that up and be different. So range, again, like you said, Arnie.
Anybody else?
No, I
Okay.
think we covered that one.
No, we did a good job there. Okay, so we've done the audition bit. We sit down and we pray that we get the part, I guess. I don't know whether you directors have a break from one scene to the other or after a certain number of, time. But I like a break myself, and also give the actors a breathing time because, like you said at the very beginning, Art, it's tense. It's very tense for everybody, and those breaks in time really, relax people. I think the whole key here is to be as relaxed as possible, and anything that I could do to help that, even with a little break and little refreshments or something like that, always helps to break the whole thing of, oh my God, I got to go back up there again. Okay. So,
Honey, can I go back a
sure.
little bit? Because I just thought, some directors do require a monologue ahead of time. So, before the interview, know if that's needed. If they want you to come with a monologue, because some do. I don't, but some directors do. So just to be aware of that.
Good. Okay, so the audition is over. Now what do we do? Okay, so here's the thing, and it's one of my biggest, not complaints, but concerns, especially as a director. If an audition's going 2 nights, I would really love it if an actor comes both nights. Now, sometimes that's not possible, but if you can do that, that would be great, because sometimes people have conflicts the first night and they're not there. So it's really hard casting, as a director, it's really hard casting against the phantom or a ghost, because that person isn't there and you have to count on your memory or whether you like them or not. It's easier, and again, if you're auditioning, make it easy for the director. It's easier if you're actually there both nights, so they could actually judge you and you feel more comfortable. Actually, it's better for you too. You get twice as much, showtime by doing it twice. Anybody have any opinions about that?
I tell people they don't have to come both nights, but that I would prefer that they do, for the same reason. If I'm there, I can see how actor 1 the first night interacted with this group of people, but maybe the second night that same actor really clicks during one of the readings with someone else. And especially if you're casting husband and wife, brother and sister, that kind of thing, you'll be able to get an idea, oh my God, this pairing works well. So even as an auditioner, I like to go both nights. I like to see who else is there, who I feel, oh, maybe I can present myself better auditioning with so-and-so than I presented myself last night. It's just good to get an all-around idea for both director and actor.
However, I wouldn't be discouraged if you can't come both nights.
Right.
Don't let that discourage you to say, oh, I can't go both. I'm not going to go, because go, just go as much as you can.
Yeah, it never hurts to audition, even if you, in your own mind, realize you're probably not going to get a part depending upon the age bracket or whatever the thing is. Certainly, just the process of going through the audition is always a good thing. And it's something that I recommend people do, even if they know they're not going to get a part, which isn't necessarily the greatest thing for the director that has to sit through that. But nevertheless, it's still not a bad idea.
And you learn a lot. Each audition, you learn a lot. There are different directors who do different things. You become more comfortable. So when that dream role comes, you've had all this practice. So really, it's practicing. I love auditions. I would audition all the time. I'm probably a freak, but I love auditioning. Even when I know I'm going to be out of town and it's like, I'm going to audition. I can't be in it, but I'll just, audition, to help you out or whatever. I love it. It's fun.
It is fun. Sometimes it's nerve-wracking. I'm when I actually audition, but once I'm up on the stage, it's fun. I like to do the reading. I like to do the silly improv stuff. It's a good thing. And I've auditioned for shows where I know there is no character for me, no part, but I just want to audition so I'm more at ease and just practice and see what that director looks for. So I've just gone and made a director sit through my audition, even when there's no part for an old lady like me.
Thanks.
Okay, any final thoughts from any of you? We did a pretty good job, and as you can see, each director has a different, concept as far as directing, and you should know that as an actor, and it's been said over and over again during this workshop, is that different directors look for different things, so you never know. The key is be relaxed, be yourself. That's about the last line I have. Anybody else like final thoughts?
I have one final thought. If this is your first time auditioning and you don't get a part, don't be discouraged. Maybe it's not that you did a poor job. Maybe you just weren't right for those particular roles. Go again and audition for something else. Just keep auditioning and don't quit.
I think that's, honest to God, I think that's probably 90% of the reason that someone doesn't get a part. So if someone comes to you and says, why didn't I get a part? It's hard to explain to them, and sometimes it's hard to make them believe it. But sometimes it comes down to the fact that you're 5'2" and the person you have to act against is 6'4". And even though you both did a good job, I have to cast the other girl that's 6 foot, who did just as good as you did. It can come right down to that. Some of these things come right down to the color of your hair, and it really happens way, way more often than people realize. So they go away thinking, oh, I did a bad job and I'm not going to audition anymore. Believe me when I tell you, 99% of the time, it had nothing to do with what you did on the stage compared to somebody else. When things have to, like Denise said, you have to match people, and more often than not, and you have to have a good match for everyone. So you have a cast that works together as a unit. And sometimes it works out that way and sometimes not.
Exactly.
Suzanne, any parting
And
words?
I would just say, believe in yourself. We talked about when you first come in and socializing, you don't know anybody, and people there know each other, and they're talking about, oh, I did this show and I did this show. And you're sitting there and you're like, well, I haven't really done anything. And you start to lose your confidence. I'm not going to get a part. Don't do that. Get out of your head, because you know what? Maybe they did all those shows. That doesn't mean that they're the best person for this part. This is a whole different show. It's a whole different ball game. So don't let them get into your head and bring your confidence down. They're talking about that because that's helping them bring up their confidence. It's helping them. It's more about them than it is you. So don't let that get in your head. And the same thing, like everybody else has said, if you don't get the part, it's okay. It's nothing against you personally. It doesn't mean you could have been the best person out there, but there just wasn't a role for you. Come back. I love more than anything to see people come back. If they didn't get a part the first time and they come back to my second, the next show that I do, and I see them again, that says a lot about that person, that they're not going to give up, that they really want this. So keep doing it, keep getting out there, and keep practicing.
One real quick thing, quick last thing, which I think is really important, and that is, it can't be that important. I forgot what I was going to say. When someone, it just went out of my mind. It'll come to me. Coming back for an audition, and nuts! And it was such a good thing too. I was going to tell everybody. Nope, it's gone. If it comes to me before we leave, I'll jump in and let you know.
Well, we'll have a chance to address that anyhow, because one of the things we're going to do at this presentation is that we're going to have a talkback session in a way. You're going to have a chance right after this tape is shown, and we'll address any of the questions that we didn't cover and your concerns. That's why we're doing this. Your concerns are more important at this point, of issues that you might have that we didn't cover, and more about that later. And at that time, Art will think about what he was
by then. I'll have it down by then.
Right, by then.
Yeah,
We'll know
exactly.
We'll introduce ourselves again and get a little bit more friendlier. But for now, that wraps up this audition workshop, if you want to call it that. But we were happy that we did share our ideas. Again, they're diverse, just like any other thing. And any other show is, are so different from one theater to the other. And I wanted to mention, and I'll wrap it up because my wife tells me I talk too much, but I want to say right now, we were talking about auditions. If you, after this audition, check to see when the next audition is. That just reinforces everything that was said. Not only check when the next audition is, check what that particular theater is doing in the future. Okay. You could get your friends together and say they're doing a musical next. Get those people and get that talking going, because we got to get people back into the theater, and you're responsible for doing that. And it'll help us out a lot. Not only that, and I'll wrap it up. There is, if you're fortunate enough to be in an area that has more than one theater, make sure that you attend as many different theaters as possible. Okay. Everybody would love to share your talents. They don't know it yet, but you can tell them that. Go out and audition in different places and as much as you can. That's my closing statement. So we'll see you soon, and thanks for coming.